So I think, one of the reasons why we decided to hold this panel is families get nervous about what it really means to send their children to Touchstone for the long haul. What do they get out of this very different experience, and how does it play out? So if you could think for a moment, and just anyone who would like to answer the question of what sorts of things do you think were foundational for your kids that they take with them wherever they go that Touchstone gave them?
I think 10 years of, our boys were here for 10 years. I think 10 years of being encouraged to think for yourself has a tremendous impact. So every time you ask a teacher a question, instead of getting a factual response back, having that question met with a question in turn, so that they're encouraged to think through the issue for themselves. I think that has had a lasting impact, so that they can approach different classes, different issues that come up, be they social or academic, from the perspective of trying to figure it out for themselves.
And what I found valuable about Touchstone was they were thoughtful about how they learned, and they learned differently. Now my kids, 2 kids, have different learning styles. My daughter's schoolwork is easy peasy. She could just, zoom right through that. My son has some learning challenges, and yet they both really did well here and thank God for the OSP science program here, because that's Colin's struggling area where this abstract reasoning is a little bit, different. But the way it was taught here, he really loved it, and he learned how to use it and how to work with his strengths to make it work. So
it was very important, and I think for my kids too, was a sort of the ethic, and I'm not sure what to call it, the ethical education, even the moral education they got at Touchstone. That was the most wonderful thing about this school for me, was that in the most natural way possible, and not sort of enforced as a code, but the sort of the sense of you can't say you can't play, and no one gets excluded or looked down on, and that was wonderful to me.
I think that speaks to the sort of appreciation of different and other, which, frankly, in all of our lives, work lives, college lives, we have to learn how to work with those that we would not otherwise choose to work with, right? And how do we find and appreciate something about everyone and make that work in groups? So I think there's group learning, there's visual learning. You have to learn that life skill. And also that education isn't a task to be checked off, but it's an intellectual pursuit, and learning to take some of the responsibility for that. And particularly in the OSP, there's a context, and then you have to develop your own project along the way and then present it. I think these are all life skills in the context of learning.
The social emotional awareness that I've seen, because my daughter's gone from here to Shrewsbury High School, and her first year she was almost a magnet for other kids, because they could sense that she sort of knew what was going on, and she could sort of almost analyze the social situation. She could step back and see what was happening. Those are some of the skills that she learned here. And resolving conflict, and helping out friends who are having issues with other kids. That just seems to come naturally to her now, because she's had that experience and that kind of education at Touchstone.
How have your kids who really thrive in this environment adjusted? I mean, is it just like, oh, well, while they were kids, it was really good to have that, but then as they got older, as they turned into adults, they were able to cope really well with the harsh realities of the real world?
The real world. Yeah. It's interesting, because we think of this small environment as a bubble, but you can't hide in a group here, right? There's nowhere to go, right? There's small classes, and there's not enough people to make a group most of the time, right? So, but you can go to Shrewsbury and live in a bubble.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting how we think of big versus small as bubble versus not, but you can't hide. So you need to learn to negotiate difference, which then allows you to go to a big place and be able to take advantage of all the different bubbles that exist there, because you develop the skills you need here.
I would agree, it's not an inside protected bubble, because you are not actually protected here. You are learning to stand on your own 2 feet and use your own mind and work with others. And you're just in a different environment, whether it's small, large, it's just a transition. It's not like it's, that's real, this isn't real. You're just, they just move on, and they take the skills that they develop here, and they apply it into the next situation, and they have learned enough on how to adapt and how to work with people and how to work with their own strengths and challenges and work successfully.
My older daughter was in the first OSP graduating class here, and there was a tremendous amount of anxiety. I mean, people were completely freaked out because nobody had ever gone from, an 8th grade at Touchstone, like had gone through Touchstone through 8th grade, and then gone to high school from Touchstone. That was terrifying for everyone involved. And, even I was a little nervous. And, we had a psychologist come and talk to all the parents and all the students, and, like they did big group exercises on huge pieces of paper with pictures and all kinds of arrows and diagrams. And so there was a certain amount of wariness, okay? And it was that very much that, like, oh my gosh, we're leaving this bubble, and how is it going to be in the real world? And of those kids, almost all of them went to public schools. My daughter and one other child went to private schools, and they all thrived, and they all went to different schools. They all thrived in very different environments, big public schools, and they all have gone on to college and done very well, a range of colleges. And one of the things that I thought, I think what everybody is saying and what I keep hearing from these kids, and what this girl said to me today, the one who's a senior in Hopkinton High School now, was, people learn to be who they are. And they come out of Touchstone with a very solid sense of who they are and how they learn. And they're very confident in that. And they're able to go into these situations and not have to turn into other people. And I think that is what is foundational to being here. Is like, you watch these kids at graduation. I came last year and I don't even know those kids, and I was crying the entire time. These kids know who they are. And they're like, here I am.